Howdy y'all, it's Russell back, and on today's video I'm going to be showing you how to remove the fuel tank so that you can replace either your fuel pump or fuel sending unit. And we're going to be using the '89 Chevy K1500. I've got it nicely settled here in the garage. It's pretty cold outside, at least for me. If you've been watching the channel, you know I do not like cold, but it's in the 40s right now. The reason that I'm doing this is because my fuel gauge is wonky, and that is a technical term. 99% of the time it is the fuel sending unit that is part of the pump assembly in the tank. Now I can tell that somebody has replaced this sometime in the past. I suspect they probably used a cheap assembly, probably a Dorman or some garbage like that. Don't do that. This job's kind of a pain in the butt, and you don't want to have to keep doing it every couple of years. That just don't make sense. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the fill hose. As you can see, the large hose right there. I'm just going to remove that connection, that clamp, and then. All right, so the next thing is I've got my transmission jack underneath the tank. And I'm going to take a 15mm socket that I can get situated and remove this tank strap right here. This is the rear tank strap. Alright, so there are, get some light here. There are 4 bolts that hold the front bracket that also holds the fuel tank up. They're here, 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 and here. They're just studs, and I'm just going to remove the nuts. Just run the nuts off. That's pretty much it. So I've got the weight of the tank on the transmission jack here. And what I'm going to need to do is, as I do this, I'm going to need to push that bracket away from the frame slightly. And that's really all that holds this in. Okay, so the tank is now free from the bracket here. All right, so getting a little bit of room, having the tank down, I was able to remove the filler right here. I removed the vent hose right here, and I unplugged the connector here. Now there are still 3 other hoses that need to be removed, but this is the issue you will have. As you can see, the tank, well, maybe you can't. The studs right here will hit the frame. So I've got to let it down some more and kind of tilt the tank down in order to clear the studs right here. Over. I don't know how much. I'll bring it up here. Get the hose on. I still can't really see the. I can't see it. There's no right there. Not yet. I'm going to be careful with the fuel. Here it goes in the middle, right here, and we'll rubber. So, this right up in here is the 13mm ground bolt, and I'm going to have to remove that because I can't do 2 things at once here. So it looks like that's also a 5/8. Okay. right. There we go. There we go, just like that. So I don't have any rust or anything on the tank, but what I am gonna do is I need to replace these. These are starting to dry rot. So I'm gonna replace this. I'll replace this. Of course, this assembly with the tube's gonna get replaced. And then I'll show you guys how to do the fuel filter when I get it. But yeah, this is it. And see, this is the factory GM part, and it's not, I don't want to reuse that. America. Not cool. M013089-KV-BR. And then it says on this side. All right, so we're back on day 2. I've got the pump and fuel filter, or I'm sorry, pump and fuel pump assembly. I've got a brand new Napa Gold filter, and this is the, if your pump still works like mine does, this is the easiest way to get the rest of the fuel out of the tank. I just hooked the line back up that's got the fuel filter attached to it, and I've tightened everything up, and I took a lawnmower battery, and I've got the ground to the ground, and I didn't have another probe with a clamp, so a neat trick that you can do is to take the probe you've got, this goes on a multimeter, and then just use a file clamp, and that will allow you to clamp this to the battery post nice and stable. So now we have this energized, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the white wire, it'll be the one on the end, and just energize it. So there's a white wire, there's a purple wire in the middle, and then there's a black wire with a white stripe. So I'm just going to do this until the tank is empty, and that'll make reinstallation much easier. Then I'm just going to take when I fill that up, I'm going to put it in my container there, and we'll reuse it when we get the tank back in the truck right there. But yep, so when I get this assembly cleaned off and removed, then hopefully there won't be anything in this tank. The tank is not rusted and it's in really good condition, so we'll just have to see. All right, so you want to know if your filter is doing its job. Well, I poured the contents of what was in the filter backwards, and this is the junk that's in there. So yes, there's going to be stuff in the tank for sure, but it was really good to see that it's filtering every bit of that out. So hopefully the tank's not too bad. Alright, so I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but I'm getting some of this debris on my finger, and it just disintegrates. So what it's not is, it's not rust, I don't think, because rust would, flakes of rust would not disappear like that. I'm thinking it's just dirt. This is the original tank, so there's almost 40 years worth of crud in there. So yep. All right, so I cleaned around the entry point here in the tank as best I could. I also used a pick in here, and I sprayed it out with compressed air and used a like a steel wool or a wire brush. So the idea here is this ring in the center right here slides around. So there's tabs on this side, and then there's inner tab here. This inner tab is what you want to use a screwdriver or a punch and hit with a hammer, and that will spin this ring around and it will release the pump. So let me see if I can do this. See how it slides around? Should be 3 tabs. So whatever you do, make sure, like I said, to not hit the outside tabs. Okay, so when you get to the area where there's this large, there's 3 like fingers lead into the tank, the locking ring will just pop up. Now before I take this out, there is a seal under there, but I want to squirt it with some compressed air. Okay. And then this just lifts out like that. So it may not seem like it'll fit, but it will. You can just squeeze these pipes just a little bit. And then there's a sock, like a little internal filter. And then you got the float right there. Yeah, this thing is nasty. See that? So I don't know how well you can see in here, but this is really neat. The tank is really clean inside. There's this plastic baffling that the pickup tube sits in. There's quite a bit of fuel still in here. It's mostly at the front. So yeah, that's probably a couple gallons in there. There's a little bit of debris in there, but it's hardly anything. So what I thought was dirt right here is not. This is kind of like a gluey type substance. I suspect that when this looks like it may be some type of like a pipe dope that they put on from the factory, but it's definitely not. It's not dirt. I had to take a pick and try to get it off, but I'm just going to leave it be. I'm just going to make sure the surface where this O-ring sits right here is in good shape. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is just leave that amount of fuel in there. I don't know if you guys can. No, that's not going to work. Can't get the camera down there, but it's really pretty cool. It's like a plastic, like a baffle. A little bit, enough to where it's starting to go in position, and I will attach all the hoses. So let me show you what I did under here earlier. Got all the hoses ready to go. I put a brand new fuel filter on. Yeah, so this is the part that if you had somebody to help you, it would be great, but I don't. So there is a little bit of flexibility in these hoses here. So I'm just gonna make the best of it. It's not the funnest job to do, but I'm gonna make sure that my electrical connector is up here so it won't get lost in the mayhem. And that just screws down right there, and then that's the ground strap goes there also. So all right, so let me set the camera up and we'll just do a time lapse. All right, so I had to change plans. So what I had to do was I kept having the filler hose slip off. So I went ahead and disconnected the filler neck assembly, took it off, went ahead and put the large filler neck vent and got that up on there on the top of the tank. I didn't take it off that way because lining everything up has been a bit of a challenge. So it really helps to have two jacks, and this front jack has been indispensable right here because it allows me to keep the tank pretty level. There is some fuel in here. I highly recommend, if you can, empty the tank completely. I think there's about 5 gallons of fuel in here, but I have gotten this up and over. I've gotten it over the frame here. Remember, there's studs right here. I've gotten it just enough to where, I don't know if you can even see this. It's really dark. This is terrible for filming, but I've gotten enough room where I can get my hand up in here. The question is, will I be able to get the wrenches in there? I think I may be able to do that from the top. Maybe, I don't know. I probably may have to let it down again. But anyway, the main goal is to get the fuel lines connected, and then I may have to drop the tank down just a little bit, enough to get the wrenches in there. And I don't know how much the time lapse is going to show because it's really dark. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like when it's all back together. That's right. We've got a working fuel gauge. All right, so this is it's about a week later from when I finished the fuel tank removal and pump and fuel sending unit video. The works great. I mean, just as you would expect. I do have to say one thing. If you're gonna do a job like that, please use a quality pump, quality parts. The pump itself cost about $200 some from Napa, and it's the OEM Delphi unit. So whoever had done this job before I got the truck, they put in one of those cheap, probably big box store. I'm not gonna name who it was because I don't know exactly where they got it from, but you know what we're talking about. One of those cheap pumps that cost about $60. Don't do that. It's really a pain to do this job. It's not hard, it's just a pain. That pump will probably last another 15 or 20 years, as long as there's not any water or anything that gets in the tank. So anyway, hopefully this video will inspire you to do the job yourself. Doesn't matter whether you've got a Chevy K1500, a Honda Accord, Toyota Tundra. The job's not really hard. If you've got a passenger car, you may be able to just pop off the rear seat, and a lot of times, like on Hondas, they have an access port where you don't even have to drop the tank. So anyway, that's pretty much what it is. I hope you guys find that video and found the video useful and maybe a little entertaining, watching me struggle with some of the stuff, but hey, that's what it's all about. So with that being said, I will see you guys on the next video.